Hello everyone, Kent Bressler here. I want to welcome you to Kent's Kidney Stories. During our time together over these podcasts, I'd like to discuss kidney disease. I'd like to tell you about my journey as a transplant patient, but also talk about dialysis, kidney donation, and just about anything else that might be of interest. Kent's Kidney Stories, podcast endorsed and sponsored by kidneysolutions.org. So hello everyone, this is Kent Bressler, and we're going to be doing some podcasting today. And my guest, who I'll introduce in a little bit, is a good friend and member of AAKP. This is an AAKP anniversary podcast. I just start with a prayer this morning. Eternal God, in whose perfect kingdom no sword is drawn, but the sword of righteousness, no strength known but the strength of love. So mightily spread abroad your spirit, that all peoples may be gathered under the banner of the Prince of Peace. As children of one Father, to whom be domination and glory, now and forever. And I want to take this time to thank you for all of the transplants that are going on right now with Kidney Solutions, and we thank you and praise you for all the help you've given us in our quest to find donors and for good transplants. So we move on in the glory of your name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, this is AAKP is the oldest and largest fully independent kidney patient organization in the country. It's dedicated to improving the lives and long-term outcomes of kidney patients through education, advocacy, patient engagement, and the fostering of patient communities. AAKP fights for early disease detection, including appropriate diagnosis of rare genetic diseases, increased kidney transplantation and preemptive transplantation, full patient choice of either in-center or home dialysis, protection of the patient-physician relationship, promotion of research and innovation, including artificial implantable and wearable kidneys, and the elimination of barriers for patient access to available treatment options. And if you're not a member of AAKP and want to, just go on aakp.org and sign up. It's free. Not much in life is free anymore, but this is one of them, along with what Kidney Solutions does. Kidney Solutions is a free 501c. All our services are free. So please participate, take part in AAKP, and take a look at kidneysolutions.org. Thank you. So this morning we're going to start out and we're going to talk to Lana Schmidt. I like Schmidt. That's a German name, and I'm from a German community, and my name is a German name. So we at least have that in common.
Yeah.
Plus we have in common,
Yeah.
We've had transplants, right? Good morning.
Yes.
How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. Thank you.
I think other than transplants, you've got a long history. Your transplant that's what we're going to focus on this morning, is pretty unique. It's got a good story. If you read it on your page, your Facebook page,
Yes.
A lot of my listeners probably don't have a clue what this type of transplant's like. Why don't you explain a little bit for us, Lana? Excuse me.
Yes. I had Goodpasture's disease, which is a very, very rare disease. And it attacks the kidneys and sometimes the lungs. It's an autoimmune disease. I've never met anyone who's had it in all my years in the kidney community. And I was told by many of the top transplant centers that my chances of getting a kidney were very slim. And they basically were all telling me no. And it wasn't until I met the transplant outreach coordinator from the University of Illinois in Chicago. He spoke at my support group, and from there I learned all the new techniques that they were doing there for desensitization, which is desensitization removes the antibodies from someone so that they would be more compatible with another kidney. And desensitization was not going to work on me. I had several transplant centers tell me that. I had way too many antibodies and way too many bad ones from having over 20 blood transfusions during my 13 years on dialysis from being so sick. And so I met Dr. Benedetti, head of transplant, and he would do an experimental drug on me at the time, Eculizumab, or the easier word is Solaris. And I agreed. What did I have to lose? He was the only transplant surgeon in the United States that would transplant me. So I agreed. He'd only done it on a living donor before, and mine was going to be with a deceased donor. So I agreed, and we got everything set up and ready to go. And eventually I got a transplant on January 30th, 2015,
Well,
5 years ago. So I'm still going strong. Yes, yeah.
how long did this desensitization take?
Well, it's not really called desensitization. I'm not sure what they call it, because desensitizing removes the antibodies from your blood so that you hopefully will be more compatible with kidneys that, come up.
Right.
Where this drug suppresses the antibodies so they don't rise up and affect things.
Masks
So
them then.
it included a series of 9 shots. The first shot is given right before transplant, and then the other 8 shots, over the next few months. So it has worked great for me.
Yeah, it wasn't a one-shot deal and you went to surgery. It was months, about 5, 6, 8 months. What did you say?
I think it was a good 6 months.
Okay.
But then I think he decided, my transplant surgeon, Dr. Benedetti, decided to extend it out just to see, how things would go, because I was doing so well with it.
Yeah.
And and then of course my immune system was really suppressed, and then I got shingles, and from there then he realized that was the point where my immune system had gone too far.
Yep.
And so now he has stopped it, changed my meds around. So yeah.
So in 15 you had the transplant, and you were on dialysis for how many years? I am paying attention
13,
now. 13 years.
13 gruesome years.
I wanted to bring that out.
Oh my goodness. And I tell people, do whatever you can to not get on dialysis.
Oh,
if you can skip that, your life will be so much better. And I did every modality that there was. Of course, over 13 years, I had plenty of time to try everything out.
Yeah.
And
test drive everything.
So I was glad to get rid of that machine and not have to do it. And I didn't realize how traumatic dialysis can be on your body, on your emotions, on your lifestyle. And every treatment, when I look back, is traumatic. And in some way, it's adjusting your body in a not so normal way. And it was difficult for that many years. Most people are luckier and get, a transplant sooner, but with my antibodies, there just wasn't a solution
Yeah.
until the University of Illinois in Chicago came around, so.
I'm amazed.
And I was dying.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. 13 years on dialysis. I know there's probably people that
I was
go
dying.
20, but they're outliers. 13 years is a long time.
Yeah. Very, very few people make it that far.
No.
Very few. But, most everyone goes in the first 5 years,
Right.
and then, within 10 years, that's again cut in half. And then, so yeah, I was, as Dr. Benedetti says, I was in a life and death situation.
Oh, gosh.
I was living on borrowed time. And then I had an injury to my foot. And so all my body's energy went to healing that foot. And as a result, I already had a compromised body from dialysis. My blood started to plummet.
Yeah.
And I was going downhill. Yeah, my body couldn't take that injury. And so I got in and got a kidney.
It's real interesting because I think a lot of people who I did not experience long-term dialysis. I was only on it twice before I had my transplant. I didn't want to go on. Oh yeah. No, I said I was.
Yeah.
I said I wasn't going on, and my Dr. Mulgrew told me, he says, you won't do well on it anyway, so let's get you transplanted. That was back in '87.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. So we're a completely
the sooner.
Yeah, the sooner the better. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And that's why we have advocated kidney solutions for preemptive transplant. We're working heavily in the field of preemptive. But we don't turn dialysis patients down. Don't get me wrong. We never say no to anyone.
Right, right.
But okay, so
there isn't any reason why. Yeah.
So when you first
is the way to go. Yeah.
Yeah, we think so too. Okay, so when you came off and actually had your transplant, did you have to take any special medication afterwards? I know you probably did the same immunosuppression with, CellCept and Prograf. Is that what you used?
Tacrolimus and I think it was Myfortic.
Yeah.
And then they switched me to Everolimus. Yeah. But no, same meds, with the injections of Solaris and without the injections of Solaris. So the same meds. Yeah.
So the Solaris injections continued after transplant also, correct? Or am I wrong there?
Yeah.
And
probably
how long?
It's supposed to be for a few months, but it's usually the protocol is to do it for a few months, but Dr. Benedetti decided to do it for a full year just to see how things would go,
sure.
And, and then, my immune system was pretty low, and then I got the shingles, and then he, took me off the Solaris, and changed up my meds, so, so it's a very straightforward 5 years. I've looked at his last transplant conference, and they're mixing it with different drugs and depending on the person's antibodies, and they're doing all kinds of desensitization type things for patients and, experimenting really,
well,
but coming as close as they can, to that particular person's antibodies. And so they're doing quite a bit up there, which is what we need right now in the transplant community. Is a third of the people on the waiting list are sensitized.
Sure.
And that's just on the transplant waiting list. And, surely with our world-renowned medical system here, we can do something to handle antibodies.
Yeah,
I don't think it would be that difficult, but, if, the government would put, some funding towards that. It
Well,
would
that's what
really
we work
bring
at.
down that wait list, because it really, yeah, that's right.
That's
We've
right.
got to
That's what
get
we
that
work
down.
at.
And it's going to take, I think, several different kinds of methods, not just one, to bring it down. It's going to take, supporting the living donors more, the immunosuppressant, drug that we just got passed, the Medicare will cover, the immunosuppressant drugs for more than 3 years. And I think it's going to take, some more innovative desensitization and pushing more for preemptive. And I think it's going to take a multitude of things to bring that list down, because it hasn't moved,
No,
in a long, long time. It's
it, it
still
gets
around
more and more every
100,000
year.
people. Yeah, yeah. And we want to see, more research in the desensitization, in that for people to keep their kidneys. I have talked with the pharmaceutical company that makes this drug, and I said, they didn't meet their endpoints when they did their clinical trial on it so years ago. So therefore, it hasn't been approved by Medicare. And I said, well, what the heck happened? And they said, well, a lot of transplant centers are now using this drug, Solaris, for rejection. They are giving it to patients off label, and they give it to them for rejection to suppress their antibodies. So, so it's a good drug. It's worked for me. I had absolutely no side effects from it at all that I was aware of. And I'm thankful that there was something that could suppress my antibodies, because removal of them to make me a match was not going to happen. So, kidneys, kidney failure, kidney disease is a tough battle to fight. And, as kidney patients, we need everything we can get, to help us through it. And transplant is the answer, to get through kidney failure. And so, as I say, people are uselessly suffering on dialysis and with kidney disease and kidney failure, and prematurely dying because of kidney disease. And this is something that, has to be looked at hard. And, we'll see what the new administration brings in the way of a health and human services person and a Medicare, head, and see where they're at with kidneys. We've been fortunate to get the executive order for advancing kidney health, which, mandates, more research in this area. And again, with a third of the patients on the transplant list being sensitized, transplant surgeons are struggling with this every day.
Correct.
And a lot of them just have a set protocol to follow, which doesn't work with everybody, so I'm very thankful. It was a long, hard journey. I had to fight for it. If you've got a rare disease, you really have got to fight for your kidney. And because they like the straightforward ones a lot
they build
better.
the statistics that way.
And it's just how it goes. My nephrologist didn't even know what was, going on. He's saying, wait a minute, you're going to get a kidney? And I said, well, yeah. He says, I better see that information. I said, yeah, I did all my own research, and you have to. The social workers don't take that on. There isn't anyone in the dialysis unit or on the dialysis team that is designated to walk a patient through that process. And it's a tough process to understand and learn, how it goes, because it's totally different than dialysis. And a lot of social workers, nurses, even transplant coordinators don't know about dialysis. And then the people, in the dialysis center don't know that much about transplant. Here's the phone numbers you can call. is about all you get, So yeah, it's a big deal. And I'm glad the profile of the need for organ donation has increased in the media, on TV, more commercials. And so the awareness has gone up in the last 5 years, which I'm thankful for. And it needs to be even more. So, yeah.
Well, after fighting it for 40 years, I'm very happy to see the advancements we're seeing in the last 5. It's almost monumental. Yeah. And so I wanted to ask you, when you finally didn't have to go to the dialysis, how'd that really make you feel? You didn't have to get up, take off, get ready to go. How'd that really make you feel?
Well, I was doing home hemodialysis, and I was putting in my own needles, and which was monumental because I used to pass out from looking at the blood. Yeah. And so it took me like 9 years before, those needles, they call them needles just to be nice, but they're more like, someone said, it looks like a harpoon to me, It's like, I know they call them needles to be nice, but they're big tubes it's like, a pitch on the fork,
Yeah.
And so I did that. And once I was done with that machine, it was in my living room, next to my recliner. And I just said, look, I can't look at this thing anymore. Let's roll it into the other room. And I had to roll it into the other room. I didn't want to look at it. I wanted to be done with it until they could come and pick it up. And and all the supplies, I gave away to as many people as I could. I gave it to a charity that goes overseas, saline bags and things like that. Yeah. And I took it to UPS and they paid for it. So, but yeah.
What'd you do with your machine?
So that was good. Well, I put it in the guest room, just so I didn't have to look at it, and I could rearrange my living room a little bit better. And it felt really good. And then when they came and got it, I said, there it is. And, I didn't want to touch the thing, just take it. You come and pick it up. I don't know. I think they're renting them from some machine or some place, or they own them, is the next stage, machine. So, but yeah.
Great story.
And I think about when I look back on dialysis, I really don't know how I did it. I
don't either.
I think I just held my breath. I did 2 treatments. I just held my breath and just kind of got through it. And then when it was over, it was like, and then you had to really process, all that. It was traumatic to my body. Oh. Some people are tougher, but, and it was tough, and then, being on that prednisone now, I was bouncing around like a little, little bunny, had so much energy. I was painting this and painting that, and so
are you still on prednisone?
I felt great. Yes, I am. Yeah. Now I understand at the University of Illinois, they're doing their desensitization in a way that they are not putting people on steroids anymore.
Yeah, the transplant programs overall aren't using it in some cases. Yes. I know in San Antonio.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. And which is unheard of, for transplant. But yeah, I'm on it, and I'd like to get off of it, but I don't know. I meet with my doctor next month, so we'll see.
How many years have you been on prednisone?
5 years.
5? That's not bad. I've been on it for 36.
Oh, wow. Wow. Wow.
So you can do well on it. It's very small dose, 5 milligrams. If you go off of it after this long, you have an Addison crisis, which you don't want. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
You don't.
Right.
That's why you take it, and then the doctor can, decide whether or not, or reduce it as far as you can. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, do you have Do you have anything that really stood out to you between the difference between dialysis and transplant? What really stood out after you had the transplant? Now, what really stands out to you?
Well, after I got the transplant, I wanted every single person in that dialysis unit to have a transplant. the dialysis should be a short-term intermediary until we get you into a kidney. It should not be a form of life, because it's not life. And it doesn't do the job justice at all. Maybe gets 25%, of the toxins off, and it's just, everybody should have a transplant. That it should be our focus. It should not be put everybody on dialysis and we'll wait and see approach. That needs to change. So that's the thing that stood out to me, is how good I felt, how amazing it was, and that, everyone should have this and not have to uselessly suffer and prematurely die on dialysis. We've got to stop that.
Yep. And it starts early and get them before they even get on dialysis, I had a doctor tell me one time, and we were working in the intensive care unit, and I just, early on in my career, many, many years ago, it frightened me to see someone actually, we knew that they were in very serious trouble. They probably weren't going to survive.
Right.
And being put on that ventilator, to assist their breathing, and then having to have the family take them off. It's the same with dialysis. And he told me that if you don't want to take somebody off, don't put them on. That makes a lot of sense to me. If you don't want to have to take them off, don't put them on. Make the decision before. So let's make the decision before dialysis.
A lot of people don't want to go on, especially, the older people. Mm-hmm. They'll just die. Yeah, it's just too aggressive. Yeah. Thank God for that machine, to keep us alive until we can get a transplant. But the time has to be shorter.
Exactly.
In turning people around, and so, with our opt-in program, it makes it a bit more difficult in having access, to kidneys. So,
So if, as we near the end here, do you have anything that you want to impart, anything that you would like to share with the listeners out there? You've shared a lot. You've done a very nice job. I really do appreciate you coming on. So tell me what it is that you would like to impart. Leave people with.
I have so many passions. Yeah, I have so many passions within the kidney community of things that need changed. We got the executive order, which outlined a lot of things that need done. And I think if we follow that and take it seriously and meet those mandates, we'll be in good shape. Probably just bring us up to where we're supposed to be. But I'm really big on preemptive transplants, getting people in a transplant as soon as possible. What will help that is the desensitization, utilizing more research and drugs, and helping people to get a transplant. And and I think that is the answer for kidney failure, is another kidney as soon as possible, before their body is wore down, from dialysis. So it's artificial life support. It's
That's right.
artificial life support. And we should not be keeping them on that long. So, yeah.
Thank you a bunch. Really, thank you for
Okay.
coming on. And we'll try to maybe get a couple of us on, maybe 3 or 4 of us, and have a conversation about early preemptive transplant. I think that would be a really good podcast to do. So we will do that. So we're going to move on, and happy anniversary.
Yes, I'm excited. Yeah. Yeah. 5 years. I'm really excited on an experiment. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. Well, we're all experiments, but in this case, it's a real loving experiment, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, best of luck to you.
Yeah.
God bless, and we'll talk to you again.
Okay.
Okay, folks, listen. You listen to this podcast, I'd like you to share this with as many people as you can. Maybe the audio wasn't as good as it usually is, but that's podcasting. Listen through it, listen to it, and send it out. That's the most important thing. And I want to encourage you to sign up and be a member at AAKP. A lot of people in this organization want only the best for kidney patients. And for that, we're blessed, and we just need to continue the fight, because it's not going to get easier. It's going to get harder. And we need to find more people with this disease and treat them early. So until the next time we podcast, keep breathing.